Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a really fascinating stack of notes to get through today. We are looking at a book that, on the surface, looked like a simple romance, maybe even, a midlife crisis novel.
Right.
But when you actually peel back the layers, it is something much darker and I think much more profound. We are talking about Haruki Murakami's South of the Border, West of the Sun.
It is a deceptively simple book. You don't have the usual Murakami tropes here. There are no talking cats, no two moons in the sky, none of that. No alternate dimensions in the sci-fi sense. But I would argue it's one of his most haunting works because it deals with a ghost that is very real for all of us, the ghost of the past.
Right. It's not a ghost story, but it's entirely about being haunted. The sources we're looking at today frame this deep dive as a case study on memory, on the what-ifs that plague us, and specifically the destructive power of a childhood bond. It's about how a relationship formed at age 12 can basically dismantle a man's life 30 years later.
Yeah, it raises a terrifying question. Can you ever really be free of the person who defined your beginning? Or are we just, building our adult lives on top of a foundation that was set in cement when we were children?
So let's jump right into it. Let's meet our protagonist. His name is Hajime. And right off the bat, we have to talk about names because Hajime isn't just a random choice.
No, it's very, very specific. Hajime means beginning in Japanese. And the book makes a huge deal out of his birthday, January 4th, 1951. Now, for a modern reader, that might just look like a date. But in the context of the source material, it is loaded with historical weight.
Break that down for us. Why is that specific week so important?
Well, look at the math. It's the first week of the first month of the first year of the second half of the 20th century. Hajime represents the generation born immediately after the ruin. His parents' generation saw the war. They saw the firebombing of Tokyo, the starvation, the absolute collapse of society. But Hajime, he is born into the Reconstruction.
So he's supposed to be this fresh start, a blank slate for a new Japan.
Exactly. He inherits a recovering world, not a broken one. He grows up in a suburbia that is desperately trying to pretend that the war never happened. Everything is about moving forward, about normalcy. But the irony, and this is the core of his character, is that despite being the beginning, despite being the symbol of hope, Hajime feels fundamentally defective.
This brings us to the only child aspect.
Uh-huh.
I was honestly surprised by how intense the sources were on this topic. I think today, being an only child is pretty common. But in Hajime's world, it was treated almost like a medical condition.
It was a stigma, a huge one. You have to understand the demographics. The standard family in that era had 2, 3, maybe 4 kids. To be an only child was a statistical anomaly. And because Japanese society at the time valued the group, the collective, shared struggle, the only child was viewed with suspicion.
The text mentions that people had these preconceived notions that were treated as facts of nature, like cows give milk, roosters crow, and only children are spoiled.
Right. The stereotype was that only children were selfish, weak, lacking in durability, and unable to cooperate. Hajime felt like the words only child were pointing an accusatory finger at him. He felt like people looked at him and thought, something is missing there.
And the heartbreaking part is that he internalized it. He didn't just resent the label, he believed it. He felt incomplete. He walked around with this heavy inferiority complex, feeling like a book with missing pages. He was constantly waiting for someone to expose him as weak.
Which is why his meeting with Shimamoto is so cataclysmic. He's in 5th grade, feeling like an alien, and then suddenly another alien walks into the classroom.
Shimamoto, the catalyst.
The only child in the class. But she's different from Hajime. She carries her difference physically. She's a polio survivor.
The description of her is really vivid. She drags her left leg when she walks. She's described as being large for her age, with features that are striking but haven't quite harmonized yet. She's not pretty in the conventional sense of a 5th grader, but she has presence.
She has what the book calls a tough, self-possessed quality. I mean, think about it. She's had polio. She's been through surgeries, rehabilitation, pain. She has faced a level of suffering that the other kids haven't. She doesn't whine. She doesn't complain. And when she looks at Hajime, she has this smile that seems to say, it's gonna be okay.
That connection is just instantaneous, isn't it? It's not just that they are neighbors or classmates. It's that they are fellow survivors in a world of siblings. They become a refuge for one another.
They create a closed circuit, yeah. They spend all their time together, mostly in Shimamoto's living room.
And this is where we get to the ritual of records. This isn't just hanging out. It's almost religious.
I loved the sensory details in this part of the notes. Hajime's family didn't have a stereo, but Shimamoto's father did. And the way she handled those records, it wasn't casual. It was a ceremony, absolutely. She treated the records like fragile souls in a glass bottle. She would take the record out of the sleeve, spray it to remove the dust, wipe it with a velvet cloth, and then lower the needle with absolute precision. Hajime just sat there mesmerized. It elevated the act of listening to music into something sacred.
And the playlist is crucial here. We're talking Rossini overtures, Beethoven's Pastoral, but the big one, the one that gives the book its title, is Nat King Cole.
South of the Border.
Right. And here is where the deep dive aspect really comes in.
Yeah.
They listen to this song and they completely misunderstand it.
It's a beautiful example of childhood imagination. They didn't know South of the Border referred to Mexico. They didn't know it was a song about a guy falling in love with a girl in a different country. To them, South of the Border was just a place, a mystical place, a place that was soft and beautiful and arguably better than the reality they were living in.
It represented a world elsewhere, and that ties into the concept of the secret garden. They felt that when they listened to that music, they were entering a garden that only the two of them held the keys to.
That shared escapism is the glue of their relationship. They were incomplete on their own, but together in that living room with Nat King Cole playing, they were whole.
There is a specific moment that anchors this entire story. They are 12 years old, they are walking back from school or an errand, and for just 10 seconds, Shimamoto takes Hajime's hand.
It's the most important 10 seconds of his life. And Hajime is very, very careful to clarify this. It wasn't sexual. He was 12. He didn't have those urges yet. But he describes it as a revelation.
He says he felt like a tiny bird fluttering into the sky. He saw a place far away, maybe that south of the border, and he knew with absolute certainty that he would travel to that place someday. It was a glimpse of his destiny.
It was the feeling of total belonging. For a boy who felt defective his whole life, holding her hand made him feel real. But then the tragedy of growing up happens. They graduate elementary school, they go to different junior highs, and they drift apart.
This drives me crazy. It feels so preventable. They don't have a fight. No one moves away. They just stop. Why?
Because adolescence is a paralyzing force. Shimamoto actually talks about this later in the book using a metaphor about cement. She says time hardens things like cement in a bucket. Once it sets, you can't reshape it. Hajime is afraid. He's afraid of the new school. He's afraid of looking uncool. He's afraid of being rejected. So instead of reaching out, he withdraws.
He puts a reserved sign.
Exactly. He puts a reserved sign on the empty chair in his heart where Shimamoto used to sit. He decides to leave it empty rather than fill it with anyone else. He abandons her out of simple, pathetic inertia. And that guilt sets the stage for everything that comes next.
So we move into his teenage years. This is section 2 in our outline. The discovery of evil. Hajime decides he is done being the weak little boy. He reinvents himself.
He hits the gym, he joins the swimming team, he builds physical muscle to armor his emotional vulnerability. He tries to become normal. And part of the script for being a normal teenager is, well, getting a girlfriend.
Enter Izumi. Her name means mountain spring. She sounds like the perfect high school sweetheart. She's nice, she's honest, she's decent.
She's the safe choice. She's the mountain spring, clear, refreshing, but not deep. Ironically, she hates her siblings and wishes she was an only child, which Hajime finds amusing. But the key thing is that while Hajime likes her, while he enjoys the physical intimacy they have, there is no magnetism.
That word magnetism comes up a lot. With Izumi, it's comfortable, they do heavy petting, but she wants to wait for actual intercourse. It's very sweet, standard high school romance. But it doesn't shake him. It doesn't take him to the secret garden.
And because he is starving for that intensity, he is vulnerable when the storm hits, the storm being Izumi's cousin.
The cousin. She comes to visit from Kyoto, and Hajime takes one look at her and just loses his mind.
This is where Hajime develops his theory on sexual attraction. He describes it as a scent, not a perfume, but a pheromonal signal. He says there is a fragrance that attracts certain people like an animal in heat. He knows almost nothing about this cousin, though he does find out she's an only child too, which is a pattern. But the attraction is violent.
A silent bolt of lightning. That's how he describes it. And this is where the story gets really dark. Hajime doesn't just have a crush. He actively destroys Izumi.
He engages in a compulsive, purely sexual affair with the cousin. He lies to Izumi's face. He uses her trust against her. He constructs these elaborate alibis, and he does it over and over again.
This is the discovery of evil. It's a philosophical turning point for him, isn't it? He realizes that he isn't the victim of the only child stigma anymore. He is the villain.
There is a chilling line in the notes where he reflects on this. He says, a person can, just by living, damage another human being beyond repair. It's a terrifying realization. We like to think we are good people, but Hajime realizes that his desire, his selfishness, is capable of nuking someone else's soul.
And the worst part, he admits he would do it again. He feels self-hatred, sure, he feels guilty. But he says the magnetism of the cousin was absolute. If he could go back in time, he'd probably make the same mistake.
That is the evil he discovers. The evil is the fact that his desire matters more to him than someone else's pain. Izumi eventually finds out, of course. She is crushed. She vanishes from his life. But she leaves a permanent scar on his conscience. This marks the end of his youth. He enters adulthood carrying a heavy load of guilt.
And that guilt drags him into his 20s, which he calls the desert.
The wilderness years. This is a decade of absolute stagnation. He drifts through college, participates in student protests, but doesn't really believe in them. He gets a job at a textbook publishing company, which, for a guy who loves literature and music, is just soul-crushing.
He describes himself as a balled-up mass of unfulfilled desires. He's just existing. And here we have to talk about that metaphor of the living desert.
Right. A friend from high school told him about this Disney documentary called The Living Desert. The idea is that the desert is a cycle. Rain comes, flowers bloom frantically, and then they die. And ultimately, all that remains is a desert. Hajime feels that he is living in that dry, dead period. He is isolated, unable to connect with women, just waiting for rain that never comes.
But then something weird happens, something that feels, I don't know, ripped out of a detective novel. He's 28 years old. He's walking through the crowds in Shibuya.
And he sees a flash of red, a woman in a red coat.
She's dragging her leg.
He is convinced it's Shimamoto. The adrenaline kicks in, he abandons his work, he abandons his schedule, and he stalks her. He follows her for 40 minutes through the streets.
It's so intense. He watches her go into a coffee shop.
Yeah.
He watches her make a phone call. He's paralyzed. He's standing there watching the ghost of his childhood, but he can't bring himself to tap her on the shoulder.
And then the twist. He follows her out of the shop, ready to make his move, and suddenly a hand grabs his shoulder.
It's not her. It's a man. A strange, powerful, wealthy-looking man.
The scene is so menacing. The man doesn't attack him physically, but he exerts total dominance. He tells Hajime, I can do whatever I feel like doing. He knows Hajime has been following her.
And he hands him an envelope.
An envelope filled with 100,000 yen, a bribe. Walk away, forget this happened.
And Hajime takes it. Why does he take it?
I think he's in shock. He's confused. But that envelope becomes this cursed object. He keeps it in his desk drawer for years. It's physical proof that the woman in the red coat was real, that Shimamoto is out there somewhere. But it also proves that she exists in a world he can't touch, a world of dark money and danger. It's an unsolvable puzzle sitting in his drawer.
So Hajime eventually crawls out of the desert. He hits 30, and he meets Yukiko.
Yukiko is the anti-Shimamoto. She is his savior. She's described as plain but attractive to him. She's gentle, she's devoted, and she pulls him out of his loneliness.
She offers him stability, and she offers him a way out of his dead-end job, thanks to her father.
The father-in-law is a character we need to discuss. He's a construction magnate. He represents the booming economy of Japan. He looks at Hajime and says, you're wasting your life editing textbooks. You have taste. Let's use it. He gives Hajime the capital to start a business.
And this is where Hajime discovers his true talent. He opens a jazz bar called Robin's Nest in Aoyama, and he's good at it.
He's very good at it. He realizes he has a gift for creating imaginary places.
Imaginary places. That phrase rings a bell.
It goes right back to the record player in Shimamoto's living room. He has spent his whole life wanting to be south of the border. Now he builds these bars that allow other people to escape their realities. He creates lighting, atmosphere, music. He monetizes his own need for escapism.
And he wins the game. He's got the BMW. He's got the cottage in Hakone. He wears Armani and Soprani suits. He has 2 beautiful daughters. He has achieved everything society tells him to achieve.
But he feels like a fraud. He calls it imposter syndrome on a massive scale. He remembers his student radical days shouting anti-capitalist slogans, and now he's a wealthy business owner living off his father-in-law's money. He feels like he is living someone else's life.
And even this perfect life has cracks. Yukiko isn't just a simple housewife. We find out she attempted suicide once before meeting Hajime.
That floors him. It reminds him that you never truly know anyone. Even his gentle wife has walked through her own desert.
And he has a moral showdown with the father-in-law. The dad offers him a stock tip, blatant insider trading, stock manipulation.
And Hajime says no. This is important. He rejects the easy money. He wants to earn his living through his imaginary places, through his work. He's trying desperately to hold on to some scrap of integrity, some sense of Hajime inside the suit.
So the stage is set. He's wealthy, he's a father, he's stable, but he's hollow. And then, one rainy night, the door to Robin's nest opens.
And the past walks in.
Shimamoto.
Yeah.
But not the Shimamoto he remembers.
No. She's transformed, she's beautiful, she's wealthy, and the leg, the defining feature of her childhood, is fixed. She's had an operation. She moves with this incredible elegance now.
The text says she is a person for whom middle ground objects do not exist. She's absolute. But she's also blank.
She's a cipher. A total cipher. She refuses to answer any questions. Where does she live? What does she do? Who is her husband? She stonewalls him. She says she wants to keep the present blank. She only wants to exist in the past or in this suspended moment in the bar.
They start meeting every week. They sit, they drink, they talk for hours. It's incredibly intimate.
It's an emotional affair. They don't touch, but Hajime is obsessed. He says when he's not with her, he's on the surface of the moon. He's breathing thin air. His real life, his wife, his kids, starts to feel like a hallucination, and the only thing that feels real is Shimamoto.
And then she asks him for something, a favor. She asks him to take her to a river. But not just any river, a river that flows swiftly to the sea.
And Hajime, without hesitation, lies to his wife. He tells her he's going on a business trip. He gets on a plane with Shimamoto, and they fly to Ishikawa. They rent a car and drive out to this desolate river.
This scene is the emotional climax of the book. It's freezing cold. They stand by the water, and Shimamoto takes an urn out of her bag.
She scatters ashes into the river.
And she tells him, they are the ashes of her baby.
A baby who lived for only one day. This is the only glimpse of her current reality she ever gives him. It explains the sadness in her eyes. It explains why she feels like she doesn't belong in the world of the living. She wanted the baby to flow to the sea, to become part of the rain cycle.
The drive back from that river is... it's terrifying. Shimamoto starts gasping for air.
She has a seizure, but it's described as mechanical, like a machine breaking down. She is dying right there in the passenger seat.
They are in the middle of nowhere. A boarded-up bowling alley parking lot. It's snowing. Hajime is frantic. He finds a bottle of medicine in her bag, no label, just a mysterious pill. But she can't swallow. Her throat is locked.
So he improvises. He runs outside, scoops up a handful of snow, melts it in his own mouth to make water, and then transfers the water mouth to mouth to help her swallow the pill.
That image is so powerful. It's so intimate. It's so desperate.
It's the ultimate act of connection. He is literally breathing life back into her. It's sexual and non-sexual at the same time. It's primal. He saves her life.
And when she recovers, the mood shifts. They have to rush to the airport to get back to Tokyo. They're sitting on the plane. The snow is coming down harder. And Hajime has this thought. This dark, terrifying thought.
He prays for the plane to be snowed in.
He wants the flight canceled.
He realizes in that moment that if the plane doesn't take off, he won't go back. He will stay with Shimamoto. He is willing to abandon Yukiko. He is willing to abandon his two daughters. He is willing to walk away from his BMW, his bars, his entire life, just to stay in that suspended animation with her.
He is ready to torch his perfect life for the ghost of his childhood. That is a staggering level of selfishness, but also a staggering level of longing.
It shows the power of the secret garden. He believes that Shimamoto is the only person who makes him real. To him, his wife and kids are part of the imposter life. They are the furniture of a life he stumbled into. Shimamoto is the truth.
But the plane takes off, they fly back to Tokyo, they land, and Shimamoto disappears into the night again.
But the damage is done. The reserved sign in his heart, it's gone. The barrier is down. He is fully, dangerously obsessed.
And just to twist the knife a little deeper, the universe sends him a reminder of what happens when he gets obsessed. He learns about Izumi,
the high school girlfriend. A friend tells him he saw her. She's living in a city called Toyohashi. She's solitary. She's described as unattractive and terrified of people. The friend says that children are actually afraid of her face.
That is horrific.
It's not a physical scar. It's the expression she wears. It's the look of a person who was broken beyond repair. She is a living monument to the damage Hajime caused. It's a warning. This is what you do to people.
And yet, he's poised to do it again. He knows he's about to destroy Yukiko. He's torn apart. There is this detail about the horse that I found so sad.
Oh, the horse. He starts obsessively thinking that he needs to buy his daughter a horse. He thinks, if I buy her a horse, she'll be happy, and that happiness will act as a shield when I inevitably blow up the family. It's a frantic attempt to pay off his guilt in advance.
So we reach the standoff. Shimamoto has been gone since May. It's now autumn. Hajime is spiraling. He's swimming thousands of meters a day, trying to physically exhaust the demons in his head.
He's trying to outrun the desert, but you can't outrun it.
And then, on a rainy night in autumn, the door opens. She walks into the bar again.
And this is where the notes leave us, and honestly, it's where the book leaves the reader with the heaviest burden. We are left with a man who has everything a person is supposed to want: health, wealth, family. But he is standing on the precipice, ready to throw it all into the abyss for the magnetism of the past.
It brings us back to that central question we started with. Can we ever really be free? Shimamoto said, time hardens like cement. You can't go back. But Hajime is standing there with a sledgehammer trying to crack the cement open.
He is chasing a feeling of wholeness he hasn't felt since he was 12. He wants to go south of the border. But the tragedy and the lesson here is that south of the border doesn't exist. It was just a song. It was a misunderstanding. The reality is the desert. The reality is dead babies and seizures in parking lots and menacing men with envelopes of cash.
The secret garden isn't a paradise. It's a dangerous, dark place.
Exactly. Shimamoto's philosophy is middle ground objects do not exist. It's all or nothing. And living like that, it's fatal. You cannot sustain life in that intensity.
So if we look at this deep dive as a whole, what is the takeaway? Is this a love story?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think it's a warning. It's a warning about the danger of nostalgia. We all have a what if. We all have a Shimamoto, a road not taken, a version of ourselves we left behind. Hajime's story forces us to look at that ghost and ask, can I make peace with the cement? Or am I going to destroy my present to chase a phantom?
It's the idea that you can have a good life and still feel like you're just waiting for the real thing to start. And that waiting can rot you from the inside out.
And it can hurt everyone around you. Just ask Izumi. Just ask Yukiko.
We're going to leave you with a provocative thought to mull over today. We've watched Hajime risk everything. But turn that mirror on yourself.
Think about your own beginning. If the person who defined your youth came back today, if they walked into your life on a rainy night looking better than ever, asking you to go to the river, would you jeopardize your now to follow them?
Would you get on the plane, or would you hope it gets snowed in? That's the question. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Until next time.